Good morning, it's Tuesday, July 28, and this is the Brussels Playbook podcast. The vibe in Brussels today is scorched as wildfires rage across France and Spain, putting Europe's shared emergency response under growing pressure. Also on the pod, are Trump's MAGA supporters turning toward Ukraine? And we've covered monkeys, we've covered peacocks. It's time for some llama drama. I'm Zoya, Sheftalovich, and with me today is Wishart, our senior EU politics editor. Hey, Ian.
Did you say llama drama?
I said llama drama, baby.
And when you say we've covered monkeys and peacocks, extensively so.
Oh, I think we've been extra extensive on the monkeys and the peacocks. We've heard their... Do you know how to make a llama sound?
No, but I think we're going to find out later in the podcast, aren't we?
Stay tuned, folks. Story 1. Ian, you've seen the wildfires that have been raging across France and Spain over the past few weeks. There have been more than 300,000 people who've been evacuated. And it's not over. Things are getting pretty dicey around Bordeaux in France. In Spain, there are fires around Madrid, Toledo, Castellón. There are national emergencies being declared, and the EU's forecast actually shows that the extreme fire danger is going to continue in France and Spain, but also in the Western Balkans and northern Finland, of all places.
Pictures look terrible, don't they? Must be terrifying for the people who live there or who are on holiday there. Part of the raison d'etre of this podcast, of course, is to talk about the EU and the political angle of it. And our colleague Gerardo Fortuna has been looking into sort of what the EU can do centrally in ways to help the authorities in France and Spain and elsewhere.
Yeah, that's right. So the EU has some levers at its disposal that it can pull to help countries when they're suffering under a natural disaster like this. So both France and Spain have now asked for that European assistance.
This is the civil protection mechanism, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the levers that they've got. And they also have rescEU, which is rescEU.
rescEU.
rescEU. Mm-hmm. So they're getting assistance. It's a bunch of planes that are coming in, helicopters, as well as all sorts of other resources. So firefighters, I think 134 firefighters have been sent by Portugal and 41 vehicles to Spain.
Kind of doesn't make the news very often, but this is actually one of the few tangible ways that the EU can make a difference in countries joining together and helping each other, which is kind of what the EU is there for in the start. And this is actually one of the ways that they can really show working together helps.
Yeah, that's right. And the idea basically is like, well, if you're in the midst of a crisis, if there's a fire burning or a flood that's coming, you can just go to one central place and say, hey, I need help, rather than trying to call up everyone and say, do you have extra fire trucks? Do you have firefighters you could send us?
Yeah, so extra firefighters are coming from 14 countries, I think you said that, didn't you, to help in France and Spain. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And there's also actually non-EU countries that are sending help as well. And that is also coordinated by Brussels. Of course, the issue is that this is happening again and again. I mean, last year we had wildfires, the year before, and I come from a country, Australia, which suffers under fires. In Australia, that is normal. But unfortunately, due to the impact of climate change, it's happening more and more, and in places that are not used to these fires, such as, we talked about the Balkans, we talked about Finland, not exactly hotbeds of wildfires in the past. And so those governments are having to try to deal with the fact that this is the new normal, and they need the equipment, they need the resources to be able to deal with it more and more, but they're not necessarily super prepared for that.
So I'm sure a Green MEP, if they were sitting here with us today, would say, well, it's one good thing to praise the EU for these rescue missions and working together to fight fires together. But on the other hand, what's happened to the Green Deal?
Yeah. And the response might be, well, the Green Deal was all well and good, but then the far right went into power around the EU and things turned, and so did the Green Deal policy. But the Commission is trying to do some stuff. There are, as we said, there are mechanisms at play. But one of the things is that the EU itself doesn't actually own any firefighting planes or equipment yet.
Right. This is actually something that I didn't know about until I started looking at it, but there's this idea to build this permanent European fleet with 12 new planes based in southern Europe, Portugal, Spain, France, and countries down in the south of Europe. But that's not expected to start until about 2028, apparently.
Yeah, and I mean, in the meantime, the fires are burning now here and around Europe, and that's really a worry, an immediate worry. And the message from the Commission is that more planes isn't actually going to solve the bigger issue.
And from our reporting, one Commission official told us that even if Europe bought, another 24, another 50 planes, it still wouldn't be enough if these huge fires broke out across several countries at once.
Yeah, and so Gerardo has some interesting information in terms of what the Commission is telling countries. It's been telling countries that, look, better prevention and management of forests and dry vegetation is the thing that needs to be done. So you've got to protect homes, roads, industrial areas. You've got to make sure that there isn't long, tall grass around those areas. You need shared forecasting, analysis of how fires will spread. And the Commission is actually preparing a new set of recommendations on how to manage wildfire risks together as European countries rather than individual countries trying to manage it on their own.
Well, if you are listening to this podcast this morning and you're in an area affected by the fires, or you live there, or you're on holiday there, let us know on the WhatsApp number. It would be fascinating to hear your witness account.
Yeah, especially because, Bordeaux, key place for people to holiday, Spain, key place for people to holiday. So, folks, you can send us a voice note or leave us a message on our WhatsApp. The number is in the show notes, but you can also just dial it old school with your fingers, your little fingies. It's +32 491 050629.
Right, Zoya, you've been doing some reporting about the funeral taking place in Washington for Republican Senator Lindsey Graham and the fact that Ukraine President Zelenskyy is going to be there. And that's an interesting turn of events, isn't it?
It is super interesting. So what I started picking up on, I've actually been looking at this for a few days now, since last week, and we know that obviously Volodymyr Zelenskyy is not a favorite of the MAGA crowd, or previously has not been a favorite of the MAGA crowd. There was that infamous Oval Office meeting around about 18 months ago where Trump and JD Vance, the vice president, really berated him and said he was ungrateful and he had no cards. And now, 18 months later, Zelenskyy is coming to the US. He's coming to DC. This will be his first Oval Office meeting with Trump since that
Oh, is
meeting.
it the first one since then, is it?
In the Oval Office, yeah. They've met elsewhere, but this is assuming it happens in the Oval Office, which we don't 100% know. But if it does, then this will be the first one. But it comes at a very different point in the relationship.
Sorry, Zoe, for people who haven't been following this particularly closely, Senator Lindsey Graham, also a Republican, one of the last things he did before he died was to meet Zelenskyy in Ukraine. The thinking is that he was very pro-Zelenskyy, very pro-Ukraine, and sort of the politics has sort of flowed from there.
Yeah, and Lindsey Graham, so he's the champion behind this Russia sanctions package, which the US has been trying to get across the line. I mean, over a year, this thing has been languishing over various disagreements, and because the administration can't get behind it and Republicans and Democrats disagree. Since he died earlier this month, quite suddenly, quite unexpectedly, there is this renewed push to get this sanctions bill over the line now in the Senate, with this feeling of like this would be honoring Lindsey Graham and his memory, because he was one of the key Ukraine backers the whole time. He has been really pushing Trump into the direction of Zelenskyy and in the direction of Kyiv. So this is kind of the backdrop of this visit that Zelenskyy is paying. But what I started to pick up last week was just like this big shift in conversation that's been happening in MAGA world. And there are some MAGA influencers who previously...
This woman, Laura Loomer, she's an activist, isn't she?
She is. She's far right. She's got this really popular kind of podcast that she does, talks a lot about Ukraine. And up until very recently...
She hated it. She was, Ukraine shouldn't win the war. It's
not that she was saying it shouldn't win the war, but she was saying the US shouldn't support Ukraine. Ukraine is full of Nazis and all of that kind of stuff, really parroting Kremlin talking points and propaganda. And as of last week, all of a sudden, there was this flurry of activity, and we found out that Laura Loomer had decided that she was going to go to Ukraine. She met with Zelenskyy. She did an interview with him, and she said, I've been fooled by Russian propaganda, and I've changed my mind.
People think this is sort of symptomatic of a broader trend in the MAGA world, that actually they've kind of realize now that maybe some of this that they believed over the last 18 months, 2 years, has been Russian propaganda, and perhaps they're now going over to the Ukraine camp. Have they been taking the lead from Trump on that? Or?
Yes, I would say absolutely. And this was what my reporting has been picking up on. So it's not just Laura Loomer. It's also this guy, Tim Pool, also previously a very fierce critic of Ukraine, now all of a sudden saying that actually Ukraine is fighting an evil dictator and backing Ukraine. Even JD Vance, who famously was so critical and nasty to Zelenskyy in that Oval Office meeting, actually said in an interview earlier this month that, Ukraine has the advantage and probably can lead to peace talks. And what people are saying is you can trace it back to the warming that Trump has had with Zelenskyy. So the fact that in Ankara at the NATO summit, he said, I like this guy's doing well, we're going to let them make patriots. And generally warmer messaging around Ukraine that he's been putting out. And, the link that's being made in Kyiv certainly is Ukraine is doing really well in the war. It looks like a winner. Trump likes to back a winner, and so he's backing Zelenskyy.
I was going to ask you exactly that. I really would want to know what has actually caused that shift, what really has started that shift, and it may be as simple as that.
I think it's as simple as that. There's probably several elements to it happening at the same time because you do have various camps trying to convince Trump and the administration, people within that kind of MAGA world, even if they're not in the administration, of the merits of Ukraine's fight. But I really think that this is a matter of, quite classic Trump messaging where you go, look, this is the team that's going to win, and you surely want to back the winner.
For this article this morning, Zoya, you spoke to Kurt Volker, didn't you, who was Trump's special representative in Ukraine?
Yeah, this was during Trump's first term, and it was a super interesting conversation. People can read about it. There's a story out this morning. He's a big Ukraine backer himself. He now works as an advisor to DTEC, which is Ukraine's largest energy firm. But he said basically that if you look at this shift in this MAGA narrative, it really was because Trump gave his entourage and his backers essentially a signal that they should back Ukraine now. And so they're picking up on that and running with it. And so here we are at this point where 18 months after that horrible meeting, Zelenskyy goes into this new meeting hopeful that, okay, the reception will be better. And most importantly, and I think this is the key ask that Ukraine has from Trump and from the administration, they expect that probably Putin has this winter left in him and he will keep hammering Ukraine and it's going to be horrific. But after the winter, the economic strain may see Putin decide that maybe he is ready for some sort of negotiation, some sort of talks. And what Ukraine wants is for Trump to be on Kyiv's side when that happens. Ian, we've spoken about monkeys, we've done peacocks, now it's llamas.
Yes, tell us about them.
Well,
what is their EU connection?
Did you know that llamas produce a unique type of antibody which you can use to make safer pesticides?
Well, I don't want to stick my neck out, Zoya.
Much like a llama might.
But I can't see that this will become completely widespread.
I don't know. Maybe it will. So apparently there's this Belgian company. It's called Biotalis. And they are looking into the potential use of this particular antibodies, which essentially exist in llamas, alpacas, camels. They're very small. They can bind to parts of disease proteins that larger antibodies can't reach. They're already helping in the fight against diseases like COVID-19 and HIV and cancer. But now it's all about antibodies for pesticides.
For healthy, safe pesticides, presumably, is the idea, because there's obviously a huge debate all the time in the EU about which pesticides should be banned and which ones are safe. There's always a big debate about glyphosate, I remember, and things like that.
Yes, good old glyphosate, which the various EU countries tried to ban, and then the EU ended up renewing its permission to exist in Europe. People are on very different sides.
Anyway, back to the llamas. Basically, you inject a llama with a plant pathogen, and then the llama produces antibodies.
Yep.
And then where does the fertilizer come from?
Your butt.
No, from the blood, Zoya. Yeah, doesn't harm the llama.
So it's not very llama drama.
Yeah, llamas. Where do they come in? Where do they live, llamas?
They're South American.
Yeah, but they're part of the camel family, aren't they?
I guess, or maybe the camel is part of the llama family. I don't know.
But my biggest injury was when I fell off a camel.
No.
Yeah, I broke my hip.
Get out.
Yeah.
Where was this?
India. It was the most painful thing I've ever experienced.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it's a two-humped camel. What do you call camel with 3 humps?
Humpy.
Humphrey.
Oh, you've killed me, Ian. I really didn't see that one coming.
Do you know what, though, Zoya?
Yeah?
I would love to know what a llama sounded like.
Oh, I would love to know that too. I would love for Dionys to make
I would
the
love
llama
us to have a llama alarm. It sounds just like the peacock did. Every sound effect that they play always sounds exactly the same.
We had a lot of feedback on our conversation from yesterday on the EU banknotes, Ian. People telling us whether they were Team Bird or Team Famous People.
Yeah, and which were you?
Bird. And you?
Bird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like birds.
We're bird folks in this place. What about you, Dionys? Birds or people?
People.
Saga?
Bird.
Oh, it's a birdie house in here. Well, listen, our listeners were pretty split. I think we got slightly more famous people than birds, but there were some strong feelings. Joanna from Poland said, sorry, Zoya, people person, all birds look the same to me. Wow. Tell that to the bird eater. Joey from Belgium said, birds all the way. The people on the banknotes feel very Western European-centric, whereas birds, on the other hand, feel much more neutral. There you go, Ian. Gustav from Sweden said, I am bird gang. If the euro notes had cool birds on them, I might be inclined to support Sweden adopting the euro.
And Jonathan from Switzerland suggests putting Winston Churchill on the 20 euro note, and that would undo Brexit. That is a joke, but it actually might work.
Yeah, because didn't Britain just kick him off their banknotes?
Yeah, the thing to put a puffin on instead.
All right, folks.
What about putting a llama on it?
Ooh, well, I don't think llamas are European, so...
The necks are too long, aren't they? Won't fit.
All right, that's it from us today. Enough tomfoolery, Ian.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
Get on with your day.
Yeah, folks, have a good one. Speak to you tomorrow.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.